Today is November 9th, 2021, and it is now 6 p.m. My name is John Lake, Supervisor with the DEM Division of Marine Fisheries. I'm here tonight to officiate this hearing regarding proposed amendments to Rhode Island Marine Fisheries regulations on the behalf of Acting DEM Director Terry Gray. With me today from the division are Scott Olszewski, Deputy Chief, Julia Livermore, Deputy Chief, Nicole Ayres, Corinne Truesdale, and Peter Duhamel. Tonight's hearing concerns proposed amendments to the division's regulations, Part 3, Finfish, concerning proposed rules for commercial black sea bass, menhaden and cobia management, and Part 14, Summer Flounder Exemption Certificate Program, concerning proposed programmatic changes. These proposed amendments were publicly noticed on October 20th, 2021, pursuant to the procedural requirements of the Rhode Island General Law, Chapter 42-35, Administrative Procedures, and the Office of the Rhode Island Secretary of State under the authority of the Rhode Island General Law, Chapters 42-17.1. The purpose of this hearing is to afford interested party an opportunity to provide oral testimony, data, opinions, and/or arguments concerning proposed rulemaking. Please be advised that this hearing is being recorded and will be made available in the division's webpage tomorrow. For tonight's hearing, the following process will be observed. First, the division will provide a PowerPoint presentation summarizing each of the main proposals. Persons wishing to speak must raise their hand and be recognized by the hearing officer prior to speaking. Speakers must first state their name and/or affiliation for the record. This hearing is not a forum for discussing, debating, arguing, or otherwise having any dialogue. Any questions must be limited to clarifying questions only. A second comment may only be made after all other speakers have had the opportunity to speak. Once oral comments are complete, the hearing will conclude. Written comments are strongly encouraged and may be submitted until the end of the notice period, which ends on Friday, November 19th. Division staff are available to answer questions regarding any of the proposals. The record of this public hearing and comments will be provided to the Rhode Island Marine Fisheries Council for consideration at their meeting on November 30th, at which time the council will provide a recommendation to the director on each item. After the council meeting, the director will render his final decision. The director has the option to file the rules and regulations with the Secretary of State as noticed, file the rules and regulations with minor changes, or not file the rule and bring the matter back to a new public hearing for additional consideration. If filed, these rules and regulations become effective 20 days after the filing and have the effect of law. Prior to hearing comments, the following exhibits are noted for the record. Exhibit 1 is a copy of the public notice and proposed regulations that were filed with the Secretary of State on October 16th. Exhibit 2 is a copy of the slides presented at tonight's hearing. As of now, there have been no written comments submitted to this date. So without further ado, let's go to the slides. Alrighty. So as right now we're in a kind of a quasi participation mode where we have in-person people and people virtually attending. The way it will work for comments is I will first go to comments to people who are present here in the room. Then I will go to the Zoom participants. For the Zoom participants, all participants are muted throughout the meeting. To make a comment or ask a question, you must first use the raise hand feature on your Zoom webinar. You can find that in the reactions or the participants area. The meeting facilitator will unmute one participant at a time to make the comment or ask their questions. The participant will then be remuted. And for those in the audience, remember you're on a live mic. For those on Zoom, please keep the background noise at a minimum while you are muted. So the first item up for comment is Black Sea Bass 2022 Commercial Management. We have 4 proposals here. Oh, thank you.
Click on here then. And then no.
Huh. That's weird. Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, no, thank you. Appreciate it. All right, so thank you for that. I think we're back online. You should be seeing our virtual meeting participation slide in the audience, in the virtual audience. All right, so first item up for comment is the Black Sea Bass 2022 commercial management. We have 4 proposals here. I'm going to run through all 4 and then I'll take the comments. So the first proposal is for status quo. This is the management regime we had in place for 2021. And just real quick, I'd like to go through each of the columns here. First is the season. We have several quota periods here. The season tells you the dates of those periods. Second is the allocation. That's the amount of total commercial black sea bass that we have in Rhode Island to allocate towards the program, broken down into percentages for each period. The second is where we will start the possession limit for the period. One thing here is this is just the starting possession limit. The division has the ability to either raise or lower it while in season based on landing rates. Next is the estimated days closed. So this is something new we haven't shown you in the past. This is to give you a better, make a more educated comment. Basically, it says based on our projections of past fishery performance, how many days we would expect that period to be closed under these conditions. And once again, this is based on the starting possession limit. The next column, likewise, is to give you a little more information, and that would be if there's any quota remaining in the period. This would be how much it is broken into both pounds and an estimate of how many days or weeks that might represent. Once again, if you see some left over in the period, the division has the ability to raise the possession limit to make sure all of the quota is consumed for that period. So, like I said, the first proposal is for status quo. The second one is an industry proposal, which was submitted at workshop. This proposal seeks to minimize the days closed during the summer and fall periods. It does shift allocation percentages and adjusts starting possession limit. And I'll just pause so people can take a look at it. All right, proposal 3 is also the result of our workshop. The division was tasked with coming up with a management scheme that would minimize the number of closed days throughout the year. So this is the division proposal, which is in response to that comment at workshop. We have adjusted allocation percentages and some of the starting possession limits to get the lowest number of estimated closed days for the entire season. And the fourth proposal is an industry proposal. And this proposal seeks to reduce the number of quota periods to 2, leaving what we traditionally call winter 1 or the winter period, and then the rest of the year just going on 1 percentage allocation with a starting limit of 50 pounds. All right, so now I will open it up to comments. Does anyone in the audience have any comments on black sea bass management? All right, seeing none, we can go to the folks on Zoom. Anyone on Zoom that has a comment for black sea bass management? One thing to keep in mind, folks, is that it's not that these are 4 options that you have to choose one of them. You could comment on any of them, saying things that you might find desirable in them or things that you do not find desirable in them. I see a hand raised from Katie Almeida.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, we got you, Katie.
Thank you. The one proposal I definitely can't see us supporting is this proposal number 4. There's no effort control in the second half of the quota, and we can very much run out of that pretty quickly. So I would say we are not in support of this, and that's for the town dock.
And that was proposal 4?
Yes.
Thank you.
With the 2 quota periods.
Yep.
John, can I ask a question on this one?
Sure, I can answer clarifying questions.
Yeah, well, I'm just trying to understand the reasoning behind this. When, it's not guaranteed that, the quota would last till the end of the year. I'm just trying to understand the proposal more.
Yeah, sure. So this was an industry proposal that came to us. Yeah, I'm really not privy to what their thought process was when they put it together. All right, any other comments from the folks on Zoom? All right, seeing none, I'm going to go back to the audience. Patrick.
I like status quo. I'm going to share it, stay over quite a bit.
All right, thank you for that. Any other comments on Zoom or in the audience? All right. We will be moving on. All right, the next item up for comments is Menhaden management for 2022. The division has a proposal to adopt a Menhaden vessel length restriction for the Menhaden management area. This would limit vessels fishing in the Menhaden management area to 90 feet in overall length. This regulation, the 90 foot, just to answer the question that might come up, was based on vessels participating in the past. Any comments from the audience on commercial Menhaden management? Do you mind stating your name and affiliation for the record?
Robbie began. What was the 90-foot overall length? Why did you go with 90 feet?
So 90 feet was based on vessels participating prior to 2021.
Okay.
The largest one that ever fished inside the Menhaden management area was 90 foot.
Okay. Now, is that the catch boat 90 feet, or is that the carrier length?
90 feet is for both catch boat or carrier boat.
Catch boat carrier. Okay. All right. No, I'll continue on.
Okay. All right, on the Zoom, I see a hand raised. John Paul.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, we got you.
Okay. This is John Paul with the fishing vessel Providian. Vessel over 90 feet. The Menhaden fishery is a highly regulated fishery. There are strict regulations. Among them are net size, possession, and daily quota limits. The holds have been measured and certified for enforcement purposes. The vessel size has no effect on quota management as landings are heavily monitored. This issue is a problem of perception, not fishery management. Rhode Island DEM has been doing a great job trying to educate the public on Menhaden management. Education is a solution to this issue. Adding regulation without proper rationale is unequitable and is not consistent with standards of fishery management. Let's see. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from Zoom? I see John. I'm going to unmute you. You should see a prompt allowing you to unmute there. There you go.
You got me now?
We have you, yes.
All right, thank you. John Williams, Benthic Fishing Corporation. I just want to weigh in here. I own the fishing vessel Benthic Huntress and previously Arc Bait. I would be in favor of this. Most fishery regulations are based on historic participation And I do hear the previous comments and stuff, but vessel size and vessel length and width definitely increases efficiency. And historically, all fisheries have been managed on historic participation and have been held to size limits and horsepower and length, including offshore, inshore, and everything else. So I think historically, the bay has always been a relatively small boat. And if we have an unrestricted length, it certainly changes the scope of the bay and the historic fishing participation. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any other comments on 2022 commercial menhaden management from the Zoom? All right, we're going to go back to the audience. Patrick.
I don't participate in this Menhaden fishery, but this is like the first wave that we have a size restriction in many fisheries. Is that correct? A vessel size?
We do have some herring vessel length restrictions, but it's quite a large vessel.
Correct. And what's the size of that?
I believe it's 175 foot, but I'd have to check.
I just recommend, I'm just saying that, I don't want to see any restrictions and God forbid, we end up having to go Menhaden fishing, you can find a cheap boat and it's big, I think maybe match the same as a herring. I'm not in favor at all of restricting on vessel size. Door we don't want to open up. Because there's already a trip on that flying limit, from what I understand. I don't see what the vessel, if you could do it in a 10-foot canoe with what, how much weight are they talking? There's 125,000 still pounds of Menhaden. So, there's 45, there's nobody's that can put on 145,000 on a 40-foot boat. What's the difference if you have a 45-foot boat or a 175-foot? The perspective, what is it? People don't want to see it, that holding the bay. Pretty much, if you have a state license order, I don't recommend any vessel lengths.
Thank you. Any other comments on Zoom or in the audience? Right there. Rob, did you say?
Yeah, Rob again, Buffalo. I'd be in favor of a 75-foot overall length. If it was option C. I think the more restricted, the better off you'd be.
All right, thank you. All right, seeing no other comments, I'll be moving on next. The next item up for comment is Cobia management. This is a division proposal to bring us into compliance with ASMFC management plan. Rhode Island would be considered a de minimis state. Our rules up for consideration are for recreational cobia to be 37 inches in length, a season year round with 1 fish per vessel per day. Commercial would be the same, so 37 total length, year-round season until the quota is exhausted, and that would be ASMFC monitoring the quota, and the possession limit for commercial will be 2 per vessel per day. Any comments in the audience on cobia management? Pat?
I don't see an option C. Are we really mandated to do this?
Yes, we have to put cobia regs in place.
We have to put cobia regs for a fish limit. We don't know what's happening. Warm waters are going to show up. Myself, I catch cobia, and 2 fish. 10 years, 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, we weren't catching cobia. I remember the first day I came in before. Everyone thought it was a big thing. Now we go to the field and we see them all the time. So, limited to 2 fish, I mean, what could be another option? Could we put a size in? And please the coastwide, please the commission with that?
To clarify, we would have to go through work with the commission on that. These are the regs that they give de minimis states to implement, so.
Yeah, but, we're not forced.
This is a compliance matter, as in all things, we are a sovereign state, that's correct.
Right, because I just remember same thing that happened with, the shark one, they said that we have to be in compliance. We kind of took something and no one thought, back then, 10 years ago, when they mandated us to do the whole shark thing, we were sitting in the same room. And everyone didn't think that we're gonna have a shark problem we have now. And there's a lot of sharks. And we kind of took this thing where maybe if we push back, there was no regulations at all on it. So I think maybe we should adopt a minimum size limit until we know more about the fishery. And the recreational, maybe let them keep on their,
Thank you. Any other comments in the audience on Cobia management? Moving on to the Zoom. Anyone on Zoom have a comment on Cobia? All right, seeing none. Anyone back in the audience? We'll move on to the next. All right, so the next item up for comment is part 14, and this is our summer flounder exemption certificate program. We have 2 slides here, and there's a lot of information on each slide. I'm going to go through all the information on the slide and then answer any clarifying questions or go through comments. So we, as those of you who have been following this process, we've been slowly amending our fluke cert regs to kind of modernize them, if you will. This is part of our phase 2, as we are calling it, management. So on the screen here, we have some proposed changes that would both affect the renewal process and application process for vessels. It would extend the validity of the current certificates to December 31st, 2025. So it'd be a 5-year expiration, a 5-year valid window until renewal would be required again. We are adding hailing port to the information required for the renewal application. Renewals application will be mailed to certificate holders on by October 1st, 2025. Renewal applications must be postmarked by December 31st, 2025 to be considered for renewal. The next section would deal with the applications. The department must receive an application for a vessel replacement or a change in vessel ownership. We would also be removing the vessel baseline requirements. Right now in rule, we have baselines as to where a certificate can be moved on, restricted on what size boat a certificate can be moved to. We would propose to remove those requirements. And the third on this slide is to limit transfers of fluke exemption certificates or replacement vessels to those owned by Rhode Island resident or resident corporations. The next slide. Hold on. I lost it again. Oh, there we go. Is it going? Okay. Okay, there we go. All right, so the second slide is concerning the creation of a confirmation of certificate status. Basically, what happens to a certificate while it is not on a vessel. So a certificate must be applied to a replacement vessel owned by a seller or transferee within 5 years of approval of the transfer application. So you may have a certificate in confirmation of certificate status for 5 years. The confirmation of certificate status would require that a vessel owner severs the certificate from the vessel, and the vessel owner may elect to apply to us to get into this status. A CCS status allows the maintenance of the certificate history without it being attached to a vessel. Application for CCS must be made on forms provided by the director. Application to the DEM must be made to take a certificate out of CCS. The exemption certificate must be applied to a vessel, again, within 5 years of approval of the application of CCS. If after 5 years of approval of the application, the exemption and is not put on a vessel, that certificate would become invalid. Exemption certificates in CCS are subject to the renewal requirements as specified in these regulations. So regardless of whether a certificate is on a vessel or in the holding status, CCS, you would still have to renew it when the renewal period starts. I will take any comments on fluke exemption certificates. Anyone in the audience have any comments on fluke exemption certificates? All right, we will go to the Zoom audience. Does anyone on Zoom have a comment on fluke exemption certificates? I'll go back to the audience for one last chance. Anyone in the audience have a comment on fluke certs? All right. Seeing no comments, I just want to remind everyone that the public comment period ends next Friday, November 19th. Please submit all your comments by 4 p.m. If you have any questions concerning any of the regulations, again, feel free to reach out to staff. We'd be happy to go through it with you. But since there are no further comments to be presented at this time, on the behalf of the Department of Environmental Management, I would like to thank you all for attending and for your comments. At this time, I declare this public hearing to be closed. Again, please be reminded that the public comment period will conclude at 4 p.m. Friday, November 19th, 2021. Thanks, folks. Appreciate it. Thanks, Ed. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.